Hello and welcome to episode 10 of my D&D story series, which in actuality this is probably episode 9 because the one on Thursday was a collection spotlight. But today on Fridays, I'm going to start a new series called Funny Story Fridays, which is just me regaling funnier stories from my D&D campaigns. Ones that I feel stand out and I feel are appropriately funny. Today's story revolves around my longest or second longest running campaign. It's up there, called Death Crew, which involved my cousin Connor playing as Octavian, the Bard, Undead, Lee playing as Mars, the Loxodon Cleric, and Dave playing as the, Asimar Artificer. And those were the three prevailing characters. There was also someone who we don't play with anymore. I believe his name is Dante. He was playing I believe he was a Tortle monk. It's been a very long time. But anyways, all four of them are the main characters in this story today. This story is about a serial killer, which isn't typically funny, but the situation that it found them in is quite humorous. So to start, they were in the floating city of Dextros, their start city. This was early in the campaign, maybe 6 or 7 sessions in. So they hadn't really left the main city yet, and they were still finding their feet, trying to figure out, what they wanted to do. So they were in the city, and they had picked up a job trying to find a serial killer in the red light district. Someone was killing ladies of the night, brothel workers, and if I recall, they had got this job from 2 women from a gang called the Flock, which was kind of like the antithesis to an evil gang. They were the good gang. They were criminals, but they helped the city. They protected the weak, and they fought against another gang called the Pack, which actually is another story that happened earlier in which Octavian and Dave had ousted and defeated them in a very funny manner, which is another story I'll tell eventually. But back to this story. They were in the red light district hunting down the serial killer. Octavian had taken point. You see, at this junction, he had taken the role of leadership in the group. He was the face of the party. He was the main guy who did all the talking because he was very persuasive as a bard. He also was undead, and he would disguise himself to keep that secret hidden. But he was very bad at it. And by bad at it, I mean he had a habit of freaking people out on purpose. He really liked it when people thought he was weak, and then he ousted them and scared them witless. There's many stories about Octavian, and I'll be telling a couple, but this is one I figured I'd tell today because it was one of my favorite moments from the campaign, and honestly one of the funniest. But they were in the red light district. I'm rambling at this point, but that's kind of how this goes. It's very freeform, very rambly. But they were in the red light district interviewing women, and they had stopped by, I don't remember the name of the brothel, but the woman there had a bowl of candy. Octavian decided he wanted the bowl of candy, and since nobody ever came into the brothel office, it had congealed into one solid mass. And I thought, okay, he's just gonna, he can't have the candy. No, he took the whole thing. He took the giant chunk of candy, and he kept it with him for a fair amount of time. But they interviewed the woman, and she basically revealed that all the women who had been killed were one of their linking factors was a customer who was a half-ogre. And he would frequent these women, he would spend all his money on them, and he seemed to be a very gentle and kind soul, but something, they deduced something was going on with him. All these women had one connection, it was him. So they track him down to where he works at the docks loading skyships, and they decide they need more info, and Octavian decided they needed more info. So he followed him to a brothel, told the madam, said, hey, I'm going to pretend. He basically decided to disguise himself as a woman named Polly Darton. I believe it was a play on Dolly Parton. And he was going to not seduce, but gather the information they needed from the half-ogre. So he disguised himself with a spell. I don't remember which one it is. It's probably very obvious to me, but I can't recall it. And he goes up there and he basically gathers the information they need, which it turns out his mother is actually the one killing the woman. Or at least that's what he thinks. He noticed the women were dying too, and he thought his mom was killing them. He doesn't know why, but he knows who, or at least he thinks he does. So the rest of them decide, okay, we're going to go to his mother, whoever she is, and kill her. Or not kill her, stop her. So they go to his house, which is a shack in the back of some alleys in the city. And Octavian decides he's going to lure her out. So he tells the rest of the party to stand back and let him do all the talking. Still disguised as Polly Darton, a busty woman, he decides to call out to the half-ogre's mother. And of course, she comes out, and she's an Oni. And this is where the plan kind of gets a little fucky. Octavian had mentioned, or shouted out to her, that he was looking for the half-ogre because she was in love with him, something like that. And the Oni revealed, as she came out with her glaive, because Oni's pretty powerful, especially early on. But she comes out with her glaive and starts menacingly approaching Octavian, who at this point wants the rest of his party to emerge, but they're not picking up on the signal, and then combat breaks out. And the funny part about this is, at this point I had been recording these sessions. I had gone through the process of recording them and uploading them very bare bone to YouTube for my own purposes. When I work, I like to have a headphone in and I like to listen to my own sessions. It gets the creative juices flowing, allows me to remember things I may not have taken down as notes. But when I was recording this one, I was actually on my laptop in a hotel room at Disney. And I remember this very specifically because I had brought the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, the special edition one I had gotten for my birthday, and I was using those. And it's what kind of made me, because I wasn't using D&D Beyond at that point, but it kind of made me realize how much I loved the game again, because I was kind of half-heartedly playing or DMing because I had a falling out with my previous group. So I was a little more on the dumps. I was like, okay, D&D, let's play. But this moment, the humor really hit me and made me reinvested in D&D. But to end the story, he backs up into the alley and they end up fighting the Oni, who starts doing some pretty bad damage and starts fucking them up pretty hard. But they beat her. And I think, they discovered she was actually killing the women that her son was sleeping with because he was spending all of their money on these women. Apparently the mother didn't work. She was an Oni. She obviously probably couldn't find an easy job. But the son, the half-ogre, was basically spending all of their money that he earned on women of the night, and she didn't like that. But that's basically the reason why she was killing them. But they beat her. They found out she was like, I didn't loosely. They found it. There was a ring on her. They discovered she was actually part of a cult who I've used in other sessions, like the Cult of the Maw, Cult of the Leech. And that was kind of a little bit of a push towards a more coherent story, but they didn't bite. We ended up going with something else. They ended up going a different path than I had planned, but it all worked out in the end. But in the end, this story was just funny to me because the whole time he's disguised as Polly Darton, walking around, flaunting himself, and it just made me laugh, and it reinvigorated my love for D&D, which I've played D&D since 2015. Not as long as some people, but I've had a couple burnouts here and there, but this story really lit that fire back under me. So I guess leave in the comments a funny story that happened to you that either reinvigorated your love for D&D or is just so funny that you gotta tell it. But thanks for watching, and please wait for more.